Welcome to the Get Over Yourself podcast. This is author and athlete Brad Kearns discovering ways to be healthy, fit, and happy in hectic, high-stress modern life. So let's slow down and take a deep breath, take a cold plunge, and expertly balance that competitive intensity with an appreciation of the journey. That's the theme of the show. Here we go. The Get Over Yourself podcast is brought to you by Almost Heaven, beautiful compact home use sauna kits, ancestral supplements, grass-fed organ meats in a capsule, DNA Fit, genetic testing for custom diet and exercise recommendations, Integro Health, high-potency liquid probiotic called Flourish, Organifi, organic powdered superfoods, delicious green, gold, and red powders, Wild Idea Buffalo, sustainable, grass-fed, beyond organic, real ketones, clean burning ketones for athletic performance and fat loss. And check out the bradkearns.com/shop page. That's my personal selection of favorite products for health, fitness, and peak performance. And here we go with the show.
I spent my teens confused, like, what do I eat? How do I eat? Fat-free this, meat is bad for you, it's gonna cause cancer. That's why I thought, okay, let me embark on the vegetarian diet. It sounds like the best diet for health, and all the scares of the fat, saturated fat and cholesterol and what have you. And now I circle back to eating the exact same way that I was eating growing up in Greece, Mediterranean paleo real food diet. No matter how healthy and clean your diet is, if you're not getting good sleep, and if you don't have the social connections, and if you're not seeing the sunlight and getting out in nature, your health suffers. I also psychologically, I just felt satisfied. I spent 35 years hungry, literally. Like, I just couldn't get enough.
Here's a wild idea. How about eating some good, clean, delicious, sustainably raised meat instead of the nasty, trashy feedlot animals, the vast majority of our meat consumption? No wonder there's vegetarians and vegans out there. But look, Wild Idea Buffalo is 100% grass-fed and finished meat. They roam on the open range as they have been for 130,000 years. This wonderful company is doing the best they can to give these animals a good life, harvest them in a humane manner. Check this out. 40 million cattle are slaughtered every year and pushed into the mainstream food supply. You've read books like Fast Food Nation with the disastrous health impact and consequences of this mess. And then, by contrast, 60,000 buffalo a year are harvested. Much more nutritional value, much better feeling deep inside when you order quality meat. Go to wildidea.com, order direct. They'll ship it to your house. It's delicious. You'll be a convert right away. There's nothing in the world like Buffalo Burger. Fantastic. Try it. Here comes an interesting podcast with Angela Mavridis, founder of Tribali Foods. Check these guys out. If you want a quick and easy burger patty that's super healthy, organic, delicious with incredible spices and flavors, this is her business. This girl has plunged in full bore and trying to create something beautiful, merging her disparate passions of her lifelong family business of fast food hamburgers in the Pasadena, California area, and then her awakening to health, her passion for primal paleo living, and going for it in life and trying something scary and new and trying to launch a business. I think her story is going to captivate you. I was just chit-chatting with her when I met her at Paleo FX in Austin, Texas, the gathering of all the paleo enthusiasts from around the world. And I thought, you know what? That's a pretty interesting story. We should do a podcast sometime. So we did. So here's a woman kind of hitting a bottom point, going through a painful divorce. She's got 3 young kids. All of a sudden, she's a single mom, compelled to be the breadwinner after going through a stage of life of being a stay-at-home mom and looking after kids. Wow, what the heck are you going to do? And in her case, it was pick herself up and go for it. And the cool backstory is that she was vegetarian for 35 years, worked well for her. She was athletic, she was healthy, she was fit. And then she started feeling lousy and wanted to open her eyes to something else. Luckily, she had the family businesses going on where the brothers operate a wonderful barbecue joint in Pasadena, and the burgers surrounding her whole life. She was flipping burgers for 40 years in Dad's restaurant while being a vegetarian for most of that time. So finally, she had her first bite of a steak in 35 years, and she'll talk about that on the show. And then it led to some fun experimentation. All of a sudden, she's at a meeting with national Whole Foods buyers, and they said, you know what? Bring this to market and we'll order some. So all of a sudden, she was chartered with starting and building a business. And we are accustomed to hearing wonderful success stories left and right. The business grew 727% in the first 3 quarters of this year. But with her success came some reflection and having to reevaluate her priorities, because she dove so deeply into building the business that she realized that other areas of her life had come out of balance. So that's what this podcast is about. Lots of themes and interesting concepts and causes for reflection with Angela doing her thing, trying her best with a nice blend of leading a balanced lifestyle, but also unleashing that competitive spirit into the marketplace. Enjoy the show with Angela Mavridis out in Pasadena, California, fresh off a delicious lunch at Gus's Barbecue, her brother's joint. Angela Mavridis, thank you for having me in your stylish office here after a fabulous lunch at one of the family restaurants. And we hit it hard. Delicious sweet potato fries. You had the salmon salad. Let's give a shout out. What's the name of the barbecue? What was it?
Gus's Barbecue.
Oh yeah, Gus's Barbecue brought the melted butter to me for my sweet potato fries and my pulled pork. No, what did
brisket.
I have?
You had the
brisket. Yeah, fabulous meal.
Good.
And we met at Paleo FX, hanging around the Primal booth. And I thought, we talked a little bit. I said, you know what, this would be a good podcast to talk about this amazing journey you've been on of a transformation, female empowerment, taking it on.
All right. Thank you.
You got a business going that's been a fabulous success out of the gate. I know it's a lot of hard work and you got a long way to go, but tell us about, let's just jump right into the frozen patties of a healthy, organic nature, very unique and stylish. Tell me all about it.
Tribali Foods. Yes, it came about for a need for something to do. I was mentioning during our lunch, obviously, post-divorce, looking at 3 little kids, how I'm going to get them to college and what their future is going to be like. So I thought I've got to create something and do something. And I drew on my background both in the restaurant business, because Dad owns and operates hamburger fast food drive-thrus in Pasadena, and my health journey. And I mentioned to you I was a vegetarian for 35 years, growing up in a Greek meat-eating family that owns restaurants. So I was sort of the black sheep or the outcast of why am I not eating meat? But that health journey drove me to where I am today, to realize that good, high-quality animal meats, seasoned with various flavors from around the world, can be both good for you, good for the animal, good for your health. And I started eating meat again. And that's kind of how Tribali came about.
That's funny. You're blending, like, here's the fast food on one side and the traditional American stuff. And then here you are deep in the paleo world and looking at the objections to the feedlot animals and the benefits of grass-fed and organic and all that. So you kind of pulled from each side and I guess planted your stake. What's Tribali?
So Tribali is the company I developed to bring these to the world. And it's all about high quality animal proteins. So today we are grass-fed and finished beef, free-range chicken, organic. We're doing turkey. We'll do wild-caught seafood. We'll do pastured pork. So it's always the highest quality animal proteins and in different forms. We've got patties. We've got sliders coming out this summer. We've been asked to make some meatballs. So any kind of form and various flavors and spices. And that's what we're delivering to the world in the freezer.
And what does Tribali designate?
Tribali, the way I look at it, the name is part of just joining the tribe. It's sort of a journey. And I feel like every time you change something in your life, you need a teaching, you need a teacher, and you need a tribe of people that are like-minded. And that's what this is. It's a tribe of people that are conscious both about the environment, the animal, and the health of yourself. So join the tribe.
So you were in the vegetarian tribe for
35
A long
years.
time. And what caused you to open your eyes and try something new?
It was like the hard drive just crashed. I think 35 years of doing things in a certain way served me, and they served me well during all the athleticism I did. I was a cyclist, I was a CrossFitter, I was a marathon runner, and I was always concerned with how much protein I'm getting because I didn't want to, I'm doing so much work in the gym. I wanted to make sure I'm building some muscle. So it was always protein powders and supplements and bars and, any kind of protein I can get in. And I think that just did a number of my digestion after years of IBS and bloating, and I had gone to doctors and they couldn't really figure it out, like what's wrong with you. So I thought I can't be so dogmatic into my diet. It's working, and it was working in my teens and my 20s and my 30s, but once I'm in my 40s, I'm like, it's just not working anymore. So I've always gone back to food because I believe that it starts with food. Everything, your mental state, your physical state, your emotional state. Let's start with what we know we can control, and that is our food. So I had already done a pretty much paleo and clean diet. So what else can I do? Let's incorporate a little bit of high quality meat. And I sat down by myself, made a grass-fed and finished filet one day.
Your first one in 35 years?
And it was delicious. And I thought, what have I been missing? So,
because sometimes you hear that people come back and they have not made those digestive enzymes in so long that they have a reaction. They're like, see, I'm not made to eat meat. But it's really just the lack of experience for years and years is making it tough to digest. But you had a different one.
Right. I've heard that, the digestive enzymes, but I didn't have that issue. And I incorporated it slowly and methodically. And you know how we say, eat the rainbow. Now I'm sort of eating the rainbow of meats. I have a little bit of lamb, a little bit of pork, some fish, some chicken, some oysters, sardines. I mean, just a little bit of everything. So I feel better. I feel like things are getting a little bit more balanced.
How long you been on this
4 years.
paleo style eating with welcoming the healthy animal products?
4 years.
And how long did it take to start feeling a change from the first steak you made?
Yeah, the first steak. I would say about 6 months.
It took 6 months.
It took
Wow.
6 months. There was a lot of hormonal wonkiness going on, and that could have been the stage of life I was at. But I needed something to balance everything out. So I think, it took about 6 months to feel better. But I know I felt, my iron went up, ferritin, I wasn't anemic anymore. And I also psychologically, I just felt satisfied. I spent 35 years hungry, literally. Like I just couldn't get enough. It was always like salads and tofu. And, I'd go to back in college, I'd go to the freezer section and buy those patties because I don't know, maybe I'm just partial to patties because that's how I grew up in the burger business. But those patties that are made out of mushrooms or quinoa.
Sure,
they've got all
veggie burgers.
The veggie burgers, yeah. And I kind of lived off of those when
those are pretty good.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
Well, they're good until you turn over the ingredients, right?
Oh, there are bad ingredients in there?
Well,
I made a few of those in my time just for fun. They tasted good.
A little maltodextrin, a little cornstarch.
Oh, really? Oh, geez. Is there a healthy veggie burger out there? Maybe Tribali should throw that in the mix.
I'm not looking at the veggie burgers.
No, you're all about the meat. Right.
But I did feel satiated, satisfied, and full.
Do you think that's common with the vegetarian scene, that they're walking around hungry, maybe not even aware of it, thinking that's normal? Like, yeah, we just have to discipline ourselves. I don't know.
Maybe. There was that need to feel like I needed to eat every 3 to 4 hours. And maybe combining a little bit, skewing my diet now a little bit more keto. I feel like I could go a lot longer. A nice piece of 3 to 4 ounce animal protein with some vegetables and some healthy fat. That's all I need. There's endless combinations, and I feel that's what keeps me thriving right now.
So this time when you switched over to starting to eat meat, coincided with the idea to start a business?
It did. It sort of all married itself. I thought, well, what can I do? And the Whole Foods up here in our neighborhood knew my father's business, and they had been eating the burgers from my dad's restaurant for years. So I was making these meat patties in my kitchen. I bought a refurbished grinder off of Amazon. I literally had a white lab coat like a mad scientist, and I was grinding various meats and then just chopping herbs and spices and vegetables and a little garlic puree or tomato paste and making these patties that I'd stick in the freezer and on Ziploc bags, the Moroccan lamb or the Greek pork or the Southwest salmon or just various combinations. And friends and family started coming by and saying, you know what, do you have any of those patties that are so good? My kids loved them, or we want some more. So I thought, these are moving out of my fridge faster than I can make them. And I went up to Whole Foods, and when I was buying some of my meat from the counter guy, I said, they're like, what are you doing with all this meat? I go, I'm grinding it at home and making these wonderful patties that I'm eating. I said, would you guys be interested in just trying them out? And they're like, okay, this isn't some lonely housewife that doesn't know what she's doing. They're from the burger world. She's been flipping burgers.
She's legit.
Yeah, she's been flipping burgers at her dad's restaurant for over 40 years. So I brought them the patties, and within a week, they said, we're hooking you up with corporate, that you've got something. But at that time, I didn't have a name. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have a brand. I didn't have all these things I needed. But I presented to Whole Foods, and they said, we like it. We like the story. We like the concept. We like the idea. And we like the clean element, right? I'm sourcing high quality. It's organic. And the ingredients on the back are clean, what we call, no binders, no irritating ingredients, no fillers, no agents that, bind the meat. I mean, because a lot of burger patties have all sorts of stuff in them. So I was all about just being paleo or Whole30 because that's the way I like to eat. And then there's more people like me out there. So within like a week, they said, take your time, come back to us when you're ready, have a business.
Wow.
And that took me 10 months to circle back.
Yeah.
And I went to the drawing board and I said, all right, I got to build a brand. How do you build a company? How do you start something that'll have some legs? And I hope I did it the right way. I took my time and I thought, all right, there is a story here. And ironically, even my brothers, when we met with one of our like power meetings to, think this through.
They're doing the restaurant business. That's where we ate.
Yeah.
So your brothers are a long time family business. Yeah.
Yeah. And they said, do you see the irony in your story? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? They're like, you didn't eat meat for 35 years. Your father has the hamburger business, and now you're eating meat and you're producing a hamburger. I'm like, oh, I guess it did come full circle. So, ironically, but these days, in order to build a brand and be somebody, you have to have a real story and most of them come from a health journey you've gone through, something that you personally, a quest for healthier eating or a personal journey. And that's kind of where the story comes out from your health crisis or journey or how you solved your issue.
Yeah, it's so critical that I think there's possibly some fake stories out there and fake brands where you look on the back and they make up a whole thing, like on the wine label or something,
Yeah.
stamping the grapes with their bare feet for centuries, and here it is, and you're like, oh yeah, that was made in a big old plant with,
Yeah.
commodity products.
Yeah.
So you got the real story here.
I hope so. I mean, I definitely do.
Oh, so that must have been scary to jump into this. You had that hope and that little glimmer of potential, having met with Whole Foods. But what about the rest of it?
Yeah, I remember getting in the car after we met with Whole Foods. I'm like, well, I think that meeting went well. And I took my brothers with me. I'm like, you guys have to come. All of a sudden, I'm meeting at corporate. The next day, they gave us an order. The very next day, on my computer, it said, all right, we'll take a pallet of each. Let us know when you're ready. And that's when I went to work for 10
That's
months.
when you go take that to the bank and say, look.
Well, yeah,
loan me
I
some
kind
money.
of did. Or my dad or somebody, anybody that would give me money. But when I got that order, I said to them, did I just start a company? What am I doing right now? Like, yeah, you've got to start a company. So go incorporate, go get your URL, go get your name, go, register everything, go trademark. So there was a lot to do, right? It's like I grabbed every book I could on Business 101. How do you start a company and how do you a food business and a food startup? And surprisingly, I mean, we were talking about what sort of competition is out there. The big companies don't have the R&D to do this kind of stuff. So they look at people like us, like that did have a health journey and came up with a product to meet a need that I had that surprisingly more people have in this world too. And so we can innovate a little bit faster and get going a little bit faster. And that's just kind of how it started.
So it took 9 months to get ready to do the first production run.
to bring it back to Whole Foods, they said once you've produced it in a USDA co-packing meat facility that's Whole Foods approved, you got to meet all
Hold
these
on,
criteria.
can you say that slower so I can write it down? A co-packing facility. You're like, what the heck's that?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, okay, USDA, it's got to be approved. So they gave me a list all across the US. I'd called so many companies, but I really wanted someone close to me so that I could oversee production. I don't want to be flying to Kansas every 2 weeks, right? So I needed someone close. I needed this, I needed that. And that was a challenge because, any big facility is not stopping the production line to give you a trial with your little project that you hope is going to work. So you kind of have to sell them on your idea. But it's like the chicken and the egg, Then you say, well, Whole Foods gave me a green light, so I actually do have an order. Would you give me a test and trial to see if we can produce here? So there was a few that weren't a right match. It wasn't a good marriage. So finally we landed on one. And then we produced a sample. And, samples are still 300 pounds of meat. So I'm left with a lot of patties. And that's when you go back to Whole Foods and, okay, here's what I've got. And then we were off and running.
Oh, so you had a sample in a sample box, like
sample box. It looked like that.
But they're not really going to sell it. They're just going to
Right.
look at it, touch, feel it, and then place an official order for however many pallets or whatever they want.
Yeah, and they rolled us out to the SOPAC region, which is 4 states. It was a good start. It was a great start. And that,
When was that?
That was September, almost a year.
Wow.
So we're 11 months on the shelves.
Yeah.
And since then, we've launched into Target, super Targets across the US, natural grocers, going to a few other big guys. So, yeah.
So the next stage is to continue growing and looking for financing.
That is the stage of growing a brand.
And
if
do you know all about that, or maybe not? You're learning something else new, huh?
I am. Yeah. This is all a learning experience. And actually, you know what? It's fun. I'm enjoying it because I think you always should be learning in life. I mean, if you're not learning, you're just staying stagnant. And so, like we were saying, it's good to set goals, both physically, financially, but also with this company. Like, I do have a goal to grow it big, to extend the product line, to get it across the US to as many. Really, I want to make this affordable to as many people as possible. So we do need a little bit of, do-re-mi to help us propel it further. So we will be looking for funding. We will be looking to bring on some partners and some strategic partnerships that can open some doors for us. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And meanwhile, you're plugging along in daily life and raising these kids and trying to manage it all. I think it's a big juggling act for many people.
It is, especially as a single mom. It definitely is. And I'll tell you, it took a lot out of me. There's nothing, I don't think I've ever worked harder in my life these past 2 years in my entire life. But I've learned a lot. And the biggest thing I've learned, Brad, is the balance. If you don't have balance and things start skewing far too much in one direction, you start suffering in another direction. And I do. I felt like my health took a toll of my happiness in like the social world. I think I just got so into this to get it up off the ground that I kind of say I crawled into a cave.
Yes, you did say that.
And that's not a good place to be. I think you need to balance. And I know it takes hard work. And I feel like I put in the hard work, but it's good to come up and breathe and balance everything else out, because I think life, with everything, you need movement, you need connections, you need, no matter how healthy and clean your diet is, if you're not getting good sleep and if you don't have the social connections and if you're not seeing the sunlight and getting out in nature, I don't care how good you're eating. It's like that balance, you're still, and the level of stress kept getting higher and higher. And I wasn't understanding why. I'm like, what? I'm just, I'm starting a company. I'm doing this. But I let everything else fall by the wayside. And so when that balance gets off skew, your health suffers. And, I've noticed that. And I almost had to go through that to realize what I need to do for me to make it all balance out again.
Yeah, I guess arguably, if you're out of balance and you're starting this business, maybe you'll be lacking insights, inspiration, patience, perspective, things like that, whereby your business might struggle if you put too much into it. I mean, that's a nice argument to make. I'm not I think there's a lot of people that are overworking and being successful in business and getting acquired and making millions of dollars. But then what? They're unhealthy,
Right.
out of balance. Maybe they burn through some relationships or even develop some health conditions. We see that every day.
Yep.
So, to what end? Like, what are your,
Right.
I see some goals here on the whiteboard with, you're growing the line and adding the sliders, but it seems like an idea to keep the other goals in mind too.
Right. Right. And I almost feel like I learned it the hard way. It's like people can tell you, and I've listened to podcasts and I've listened to you talk and so many other people can tell you, but I think until you go through it yourself and kind of have that experience on your own, it's hard to know, what does that balance mean for me? And a lot of it means, interpersonal relationships. And I love being social. I'm an, extrovert. I love being with people. So when I put all that aside just to do Tribali, it's great, but the view is the same, whether you're 10 feet up the ladder or 5 feet. It's really the same view, just making it to the top and leaving everything else, burning bridges and leaving everything else. It's could be lonely. So you've got to make sure that everything else is in check. So yeah, like they say, when a plane's going down, you got to take care of yourself first before you could take care of anybody else. So that's kind of how I feel. Like I've got self-care is huge right now, and emails can wait. If I've got to meditate, or if I've got to do a walk in the morning and see the sun first thing in the morning, living in Southern California, we're lucky to be able to do that. And I put some practices in line on my daily routine that weren't there 2 years ago because I was grinding. It was pedal to the metal. And I thought, no, the emails can wait. The computer can wait. Nothing's, the co-packer facility isn't burning down. The meats will get produced. I'm taking a walk. I'm going outside. I'm spending 20 minutes on me time. And I think that's important.
Well, the emails can wait. Are you sure? Don't you lose them if you don't answer within an hour?
No,
they stay there?
Surprisingly, they do. Can you believe that? I mean, what a concept, right?
You're giving me this look like you're staring me down, like, oh my gosh, this girl's talking to me right now. The emails can wait. Yeah, and I think they can wait while you're focused on peak performance cognitive tasks at your computer.
Yeah.
And that part I struggle with because you feel like you're making people wait if you don't answer the email right away. And perhaps that's true at times, but
and so what? Let them wait.
Yeah, I mean, you do the best you can, but that 20-minute walk could be, it could be the transformative idea for the company.
And you know who pointed this out to me? Believe it or not, my kids. There were times where they would look at me and go, you are always on your phone or your computer, even when we're talking to you and we have an issue. Put it down. I mean, my kids, put it down and look us in the eye and pay attention to what we're saying. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are right. This is so not good mommyhood. I got to put it down. I got to shut it off. I'm not taking it to dinner. What's going to happen, right? So I think that's important. When the kids start noticing, it's like, you're always on that, mom. And I'm doing it for you guys, but not at the price of not giving them what they need, which is mommy time. And so in the middle of the day, it was summer now, right? They just started school on Monday. Summertime, in the middle of the day, I'm like, we're shutting down Tribali for 2 hours. You guys want to go for some ice cream? And let's go to the park and ride the bikes around. I mean, they need me. I need them. It's got to be part of that balance. So
yeah, I have this little drawing that my son made. He was maybe a year and a half old or something. I don't know the exact age when they can start spelling. And it said N-O and then a backwards F, phone, F-O-N-E. And he had a dial pad and then a band sign with the bar through. I don't know where he found that out, but he handed it to me because I was on the phone for too long. He was trying to get my attention. I'm hoping it was just a one-off episode, but he saw me kipping on the phone when he wanted something. And so he handed me the note, just like they do in business setting today, where they hand you a note, like your next appointment's in the lobby. Yeah. Okay, I got to wrap up this call. Oh yeah, but I saved that thing. It's under glass on my desk. So I see it every day when I'm looking down there. And
and they're so observant. I mean, they see it, and so I want to set a good example. It's like,
Elisha Goldstein, I just talked to him about mindfulness podcast, and he said that we're strongly influenced by the behaviors of people around us. Mm-hmm. The Framingham study, the longest and largest study of health and impact of daily life on health, residents of Framingham, Massachusetts, have been measured since 1948 on all these different factors. And they identified clusters of obesity, clusters of happiness, clusters of loneliness. In other words, the people in this social circle are obese because of their lifestyle practices are influencing each other. Same with happiness. So if you surround yourself with positive, happy, uplifting people, rather than the negative downers where you go out and meet for drinks with these particular girls or guys and you come back and you feel drained and negative because everyone's complaining the whole time. It has a profound impact on the body, measured by science and hormones and blood levels and lifespan, risk factors, all that stuff. So if you're setting that example, I think that's the biggest thing is, the example we set for our kids, no matter what you say with your mouth, it's like a factor of 10x of what you do and how you,
absolutely.
You asked me how my kids eat. Do they eat primal paleo? Everyone asks that. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, they know all about it because their dad likes to blab and has no problem telling stories and talking about, so that sugar that you ingest is sticky in nature. You feel your fingers sticky? Yeah, well, guess what? When it goes into your body, it's sticky and it attaches to important cells that are involved with your vision, your kidney function, your heart, your arteries. Yeah, so they know the story and they know the impact of their decisions. Yeah. And man, culture, it's a tough battle because especially youth, all these things are immersed in their daily life, the screen time, the digital distraction, and then all the crappy food.
Right. So I don't know if I shared this with you, but I grew up spending my summers in Greece. So I was born there. I moved here when I was 6 years old, but I also went back subsequently every summer. And I had a group of friends there. And of course, my group of friends here, right? I'd go to school here 9 months out of the year, and then we'd be shipped off to Greece.
Wow, every summer.
Every summer until I was probably college, till I went to college. I even did that. Even my first 2 years of college, I remember, because I was in a sorority and they have like Inspo week. I'm like, sorry, I'm going to be in Greece. I'll be back.
You guys are invited.
Yeah. So I had my group of friends there, and it was amazing. The food that we would eat, how we would play, the outdoor time, so different than the life here.
Yeah.
And it's just.
So they were behind us by a number of years where it was even better than here at the time. Is that what you're saying? Like your experience here as a teenager or whatever?
Right. It was so much better there because there was just outdoor play. We were in the sun, in the water. The food was always fresh. There was no fast food. There was no drive-through.
Mediterranean
diet, which really, I sort of joke. I started paleo because kind of that's how I grew up, Mediterranean food, paleo, to confusion and then back again, right? I spent my teens confused. Like, what do I eat? How do I eat? Fat-free this. Meat is bad for you. It's going to cause cancer. That's why I thought, okay, let me embark on the vegetarian diet. It sounds like the best diet for health, and all the scares of the fat, saturated fat and cholesterol and what have you. And now I circled back to eating the exact same way that I was eating growing up in Greece. I mean, Mediterranean, paleo, real food diet.
Most likely really high quality animals back then in Greece.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Even now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you get
big
some
difference.
lamb. Yeah, big difference. And you can feel it. I remember just thriving. I felt like I grew taller. I leaned out 3 summers there. My digestion was fine. I didn't have acne, all the things that teenagers go through. And then I would come here and I was a little bit more sedentary. I was a little bit, even though we cooked healthy at home, Dad owned a fast food hamburger drive-thru. So it was burgers, fries, and a shake. Go get dessert. Right? Yeah. Burgers, fries, and a shake more often than not. So I felt like, acne and all the issues. And then I would go to Greece. 3 months, it would clear up. I would come back. I'd have issues again. I'd go there. So I'm like, there's something about
Angela Spa Therapy.
Go to Greece.
Departing on June 4th, right after school gets out.
Yeah, seriously. So it's something about the lifestyle, the food.
Is it slower pace there too?
It is. You take a nap every day in the summertime for 2 hours, and it's wonderful. I mean, we'd stay out late, right? It's that European lifestyle. Oh, yeah. Dinner was at 11 p.m. You go to sleep at 1.
Kids are loving that. Teenage, yeah. Let's go to Greece, man.
Oh, I remember being at the discos, late at night till like 1 a.m. and it was like a teenager. And the whole concept of drinking too, right? There's no drinking age limit in Europe. So there was never an abuse of it, whether I was 16 or 18 or 21 or 22. Having a little glass of wine at the dinner table was just common practice.
Or it was no big deal. Like,
No
nah,
big
no
deal.
thanks. I'm good tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Where
Yeah.
it's like, here there was that mentality I'd got with my friends. And it's like, let's get as much alcohol, let's get wasted. I'm like, why? What's the point? You can have alcohol anytime you want, in Europe.
Uh-huh.
But
That's an interesting,
a whole different mentality. My brain would have to switch to, oh, right, you've got to be 21
Oh,
here.
right, we got to be sneaky.
Sneaky here.
Yeah.
Hide it.
Yeah. You're just walking out of the house with a bottle of wine. Your parents are thinking nothing of it. Like, oh, where are you going? Go see my friends. Yeah. Go sell some wine in the parking lot of San Marino High or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So that influence remains today. Do you try to get your kids back there, or at least having those cultural values dispensed?
We do. I think it's important. So I actually booked my trip for next summer. So I am taking them. And the last time I took them was about 4 years ago. But I think being exposed to a different way of life, a different culture, different foods, just opens your horizons on the world and life so much. And I was lucky enough to grow up with those sort of dual citizenship, dual life, dual community. And I think it incorporates so much more worldview into your life, to understand how other lives. And it doesn't have to be Greece. It could be any country, right? Just that you get exposure to how the rest of the world lives. Because I think we're just so used to,
Well, we're here listening to commentators tell us this is the greatest country in the world, and this is so wonderful, and it's the freedom and all these attributes, where it might be time to second guess some of that programming and realize that maybe the quality of life in many ways is superior if you want to measure it on a stress scale. I mean, we know we're the most affluent in so many ways, but
Right.
wow.
Well, there's
to
something
what
to
end?
the blue zones. I mean, we've looked at those, and one of the blue zones is actually in Greece too, on the island of Ikaria, where
Oh,
people
right.
live to 100 and centenarians. Is that what?
Yeah, the blue zones is identifying pockets of centenarians. There's a book about it. Go look it up if you're not familiar with that term. But that's right, Ikaria. They're
And
going
what is it
triple
about that
digits.
island? It's the
Let's see.
lifestyle,
They
the
sleep
sun.
every
Yeah,
afternoon. They get a
right?
lot of sun. They walk around.
They have a little wine.
So simple.
They eat meat. They eat a balanced, healthy life, and they have community. And it's like everybody is involved in everybody's life. There's a village. There's, so maybe we should move back to
We
the
have
simple
Facebook
life.
community.
Oh,
Does that count?
No, it doesn't, Brad.
Oh, because you said
Sorry.
community.
No.
I'm not familiar with that term. It's
Yeah.
all I see it is on my social media now.
Oh,
Today's
it's not
kid
the
is like,
same.
define community. Oh, that's an internet gathering of many people from, oh, there's
No.
another community, a physical community. Oh, yeah. Well, I just get on my freeway on ramp and I go and I don't know anybody. Yeah. What's community?
That's funny.
Wow. So when you were in this initial startup phase, working the crazy hours and letting things, fall by the wayside, did you feel it? Did you feel a sense of frustration? Did you have a voice on your shoulder saying, "Hey, Angela, why don't you settle down a little bit?" Or
Yeah, I did.
yeah,
Yeah, and it was a good awakening. It was. It was really from a social aspect too. Like I almost started isolating myself a little bit too. Like I was just so into what I'm doing that I don't have time for anything else. And you asked me about dating and what have you. I'm like, well, there was a time where I just didn't have time. It's just not on the books. But again, come up
now
for
she's
air.
ready, folks.
Come up for air, take a breather, and incorporate.
TribaliFoods.com. You'll click right on the about page, and there's Angela frolicking in the Mediterranean on her boat. Yeah. Oh, but that's when you lock into that mindset, I think you don't have the energy to even think about things like social gatherings where you're quote unquote wasting the night away when you could be at home answering emails. And
how exciting.
it's kind of compelling. I see people falling into that trap all the time, where they get more payoff from answering text messages at their kid's sporting event rather than watching the sporting event. Because we know in Little League Baseball, they're not hitting a lot of pitches. They're doing a lot of walks and taking massive downtime. It's boring as heck. But
and the second you check that phone is when your son turns to you and looks at you. Did you catch that, Mom?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I missed it, but I was watching the whole rest of the time.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. You miss those ordinary moments. Dan Millman says there's no ordinary moments in life. That's the title of one of his books. And it's something to something to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So big picture, it's like you definitely need to balance things, and you have to find, just like we were saying, the right diet for you and how you're going to do your macros and what kind of food you're going to eat and what kind of template you want to follow. You also have to find the right thing that works for you. And I know that, I mean, I like people, I like being social, I like being out there. So you got to just, and I think when you're ready for it, you attract it too. You attract the people that are like-minded and that you share similar interests and passions with. So
what about the other voice that's looking at your startup operation, make or break? You got a lot of pressure on you. You got to put your kids through college and all these real life circumstances that we discussed at lunch. Both of us, are facing the reality of life and the ticking clock.
yeah.
And when you're out there taking a walk and breathing and looking at the beautiful mountains, which are now visible in the summer, by the way, never were when I was growing up here. There was no Mount
right.
Wilson visible ever.
All the smog,
Yeah, incredible. What about that voice? How do you quell that and stay committed to, let's say, a breezy, easy morning routine when you're going to get slammed as soon as you boot up the screen?
Yeah, it's going to be there. I mean, I learned it. It's going to be there. It's not going anywhere, Brad. It's going to be there. And you know what? It's not going to get done efficiently, effectively, if I'm not 100%. And for me to be 100%, I know what I need now. Just like, we talked about, in order to build muscle, you know how much protein you need to eat, or in order to thrive and do the physical demands that you want to put your body through, you know what you have to eat. I just know that if I need to produce and be on, and I've done pitch slams, I've got up on stage, I've won a couple of pitch slams. If I want to represent,
what's pitch slams?
That's when you get up and you represent your company and you talk about it,
like the Shark Tank show.
Yeah, like 4 minutes, and they ask you questions, they fire away, and I've done 2 of those. And in order to be on and be able to know everything about my business, I have to be well rested, I have to be well fed, I have to be well balanced, I have to be well adjusted for the day, and all that. I know what it takes. Like, I know the recipes of what it takes to get me there. And again, trial and error. You got to learn the hard way, sort of. But I think without, I was telling you during lunch, a couple of nights of insomnia, like that just throws me for a loop. What is that? Like, I've never had that before in my life. What is staying up till 4 a.m.? And what am I thinking about? I have no idea. It's just mind starts racing. And I think it's that anxiety of like, I've got this business, I've got to get things done. And you got to quiet the mind. You got to find. So one thing I haven't done, and I've heard a lot about, is meditation. I mean, I've done my own sort of practice, but I think getting a more formal meditative, agenda into my morning, I haven't incorporated much. I've done a little bit of gratitude, journal writing, which is nice just to get your thoughts centered. But yeah, I'm open to doing a little meditation too, just to get the mind quiet.
She's open. Let's try it. Okay, here, pick up a pen. I'm going to pick up a pen. Ready?
Yeah.
Put it in your hand.
Okay.
Listeners, do the same. Pick up a pen or any object, set of keys, a phone, whatever, put it in your hand. Okay, when I say go, you're going to throw it in the air, and then we're going to catch it. Ready? Go. Okay, you just meditated. Because in that moment, when you caught the pen, you were thinking of nothing else. You weren't thinking about, is this room getting hot because we turned off the noisy air conditioner? You weren't thinking about your business. You weren't thinking about the buzzing text that came 10 minutes ago. Right. Nothing. You were just trying to catch the pen. So we can do it at any time. This is from Dan Millman, the example of throwing your car keys up in the air and grabbing them.
Yeah.
And I relate to my cold plunge that I'm meditating during that time that I'm in the cold water, because the water's so cold that I have to focus on my breath cycles and nothing else. Otherwise, I'll start to react to the cold and have that nervous system fight or flight reaction rather than remain calm, because your body can handle 7 minutes. I'm up to 7 minutes now. When I did the podcast on cold, I was doing 3 minutes at 38 degrees. Now I'm in there slowing my breathing down even more, and I'm thinking of nothing else. So it throws me into a meditative state easily, because for me, it's tough to like go sit in the backyard and fold my legs. My knees don't fold that way anyway. But I think it's the practitioners, when they verbalize the idea that like, okay, if you experience a passing thought, oh yeah, I have to finalize the pricing of the sliders before I send the proposal to Whole Foods. If you get that thought, you acknowledge it, let it go, and then go back to your breathing or whatever you're doing. And I like that, because you can't fail at it. And there's so many things that we're set up to fail, or we're accustomed to failing and measuring and judging ourselves. But in this way, it's like, if you get a whole bunch of passing thoughts, you're maybe that wasn't the greatest meditation session. Maybe it lasted 5 minutes. But if you go back and try again the next day, it feels like you can build in those skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how many times I've got windows open on the computer and I'm doing something and then my brain's like shifts and I do the next thing before I finish that one and I start the next thing. It's like,
hate that, man.
What is that? Like,
yeah.
Stop, focus, finish, move on.
Right.
It's like just
feels better anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels good to have a whirlwind of productivity where you do have 12 windows open and one of them, Southwest Airlines, book the trip, got it dialed, write down my confirmation code, on to the next one. Oh, there's Amazon. I got to reorder more supplies for my kombucha. Oh, there's the next one. And it feels good to knock that off, but it feels good in a way where it's like a relief rather than a sense of self-satisfaction and positive energy. It's just like a heave, a sigh of relief, like, all right, the pressure's off me now, the fight or flight pressure that represented by all these windows. And now maybe I can focus on enjoying my life and doing something really satisfying, like, oh my gosh, I actually finished an article or a chapter of a book. And I'm telling my listeners, it's like, it's getting harder and harder for me because, well, I shouldn't blame the outside world, but I'll make the argument that the offerings and the constant stimulation and the support and the encouragement and the what do they call it? A cluster, the cluster of obesity. Now we have the cluster of distractibility.
Right.
So anyone we talk to, our discussion's going to be interrupted by somebody's phone. It might be theirs when I'm talking. It might be mine when you're talking. And we just go down and cement these practices into lifestyle instead of thinking something different.
Right.
And now here you are in like arguably the hardest position of all to compartmentalize and mind those balance points because you got this business on your shoulders, you and Will. That's a small operation there, right?
Yeah.
But you just gave me a great argument. Like this thing's going to make or break, success is going to make or break on your shoulders. So those shoulders better be not so tense and needing some breathing and relaxing.
Very true. Very true. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know what this was before, but I get in that flight or fight and it's a physical manifestation. I feel it physically. I feel the heart start racing. I feel perspiration. I feel dizziness. And it's that cortisol kicking in and it's a physical manifestation that I could pinpoint and go, okay, this is happening to me right now. So get up, disconnect, and go do something for self-care.
Wow.
Like once you identify.
Once you're there, your brain's not working well. It's a known fact.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a dad, was a teammate of my son's in basketball. And the coach was always yelling at him for forgetting the plays. And the dad's like, this coach doesn't understand that when my son gets yelled at, he shuts down. It's just the way his learning methods are slower or whatever. What works for him is a calm, repetitive voice so that he's going to lock that into his brain in a calm setting. Right. But every time he gets yelled at, he takes steps further back and forgets more plays.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, go tell the coach, man, because this ain't good. We need this guy to remember the plays. He just screwed it up again, But it was a wonderful insight about a father seeing his son and seeing what works best for his son. Arguably the same for all of us that,
you have to know thyself.
And this old school high pressure thing where the boss storms in and says, we got to increase our numbers. You guys better work harder. Or the high school coach at San Marino with the freshman team where these guys are just getting going and the quarterback's just airing his arm out and he gets yanked for throwing an interception. That drives me crazy because all that kids need is another chance to go out there and throw 3 more passes.
Yep.
And he's going to nail one. But instead, he's going to sit on the bench and think about his interception all night.
Very true.
So if you're listening, we're getting heated up. We hit certain subject points like Hughes Sports, and I get heated up. Yeah.
It is hot in here. I think we turned off the AC. And it's.
I think we got a good glimpse of what life is like with Angela. Wish you continued success with Tribali Foods, but also just seeing what you've done in a relatively short time and just going for it. And there's so many people out there that are at those crossroads in life and wondering what's going to happen. And then you have the kids in the picture, which can be, I don't know, people. You hear people blaming. Rather than using those kids as motivation, like you expressed, like, hey, I got these kids, they're going to go to college one way or the other, and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. And, it's that midlife switch gears. And I've always had a sense of confidence. Like, I pretty much believe in myself. If I set my mind to something and I'm just so passionate about this whole food movement and about bringing options to people for cleaning up their health, and they're starting with food and their diet. And if you have that passion and perseverance and persistence, I believe, I mean, this is why I tell my kids, you can make it work. You just have to like put your mind to it and just not lose sight of the other things that are important in your life. So thanks for the encouraging words.
Love it. Thanks for being on the podcast, Angela Mavridis. Good luck
so
with
much.
Tribali Foods and everything else. Dun, 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 dun. All right, we did. Thank you for listening to the show. We would love your feedback at getoveryourselfpodcast@gmail.com. And we would also love if you could leave a rating and a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. I know it's a hassle. You have to go to desktop iTunes, click on the tab that says ratings and reviews, and then click to rate the show anywhere from 5 to 5 stars. And it really helps spread the word so more people can find the show and get over themselves because they need to. Thanks for doing it. Let's talk about ancestral supplements. If you're into ancestral health, primal, paleo, keto, you know the importance of consuming these unique agents contained in bone marrow, in the nose to tail organ meats, liver, kidney, all that stuff, the great bone broth benefits. Well, how's it going? For me, since years ago when Dr. Kate Shanahan asserted the importance of these wonderful nutritional benefits that you can't get elsewhere, not too good. I don't know how to cook a liver or a kidney, but now your problems are solved forever when you go to ancestralsupplements.com, a wonderful company filled with people who are living the dream, walking their talk, and bottling up the purest, cleanest sources of grass-fed organ meats, kidney, liver, bone marrow, all in these wonderful capsules. I dump them in my smoothie every day. I'm healthy. I don't have to worry. It's an incredible dietary boost. And this is so different from swallowing a bunch of those synthetic vitamins in those giant bottles from the big box stores. Highly questionable health practice. This stuff is the real deal. Grass-fed organ meats, pure as can be. Ancestralsupplements.com.